set. Estão me ouvir? Estão. Yeah. Hello. So you know the drill by now. I'm gonna ask you to stand up, please. Yeah. So I was really impressed with your dance moves in the morning. For now, because it's after lunch, it will be a bit smoother. We are going to challenge your balance. So be aware of the space around you. Put your feet in a comfortable position. And now we are just gonna stand in one foot. We can use our arms, but please don't be aggressive with the people around you. So hands here so I can. Nice. So feet down, and now the other foot up. You're way better than me. I'm like wobbling a lot. Good. So now with a bit more rhythm. So knee up and down, power move. Knee up and down. Nice. Up and down. It's like I'm scaring you. And down. 4 more. So 4 and down. And 3. Whoa. And down. 2 more. Up and down. Just 1 more. Nice. Now with a bit of movement with our arms. So when we lift our knee, we are going to do this with our arm. So just your right knee and your left hand. Okay, so 3, 2, and I know you can do better than that. So let's go. 4 with each knee. So 1 and down. Again with the same knee. And down. Breathe out. Just 1 more and woo, perfect. Now with the other knee. I know. So left knee, right arm. 3, 2, 1 and breathing. Just more 3. Like this and 1. Just 1 more. And now to the final movement. I know that some people are with high heels, so this will be a bit challenging, but we will try. We are going to speed up a bit, but in a comfortable speed. So just like 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Can you do it? Okay, so 3, 2, 1, let's go. So 10, 9, 8, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Woo. That's it. Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. Good afternoon. It's a great mood here in the room. Welcome, welcome to Lisbon. Welcome to the European Public Health Conference. And on behalf of EHMA, European Health Management Association, and its president, Mr. Anthony Peris-Grau, I would like to welcome you to this plenary session entitled Harnessing Social Marketing for Interdisciplinary Health Management, Enhancing Public Health Outcomes. I'm Tiago Correia, and I'm going to be your host for this session. I'm a member of EHMA's Board of Directors, and obviously I would like to thank our Secretariat in the person of Ms. Federica Margheri, the Interim Executive Director, for putting together this plenary session. So a big round of applause, please. So this session is about the role of social marketing in healthier choices. It's about guiding attitudes and behaviors in ways that can benefit both individuals and communities. The session is grounded in the idea that health isn't just shaped by healthcare professionals. We need urban planners, architects, educators, transportation experts, and others that play a role in shaping public health outcomes. By working together and adopting health-oriented principles across different fields, we can encourage a culture where health is a shared priority. Throughout this session, we will hear about examples, case studies, of interdisciplinary approaches to public health, illustrating the positive impact of collaboration. As we move through these examples, you will explore both the opportunities and challenges of working across disciplines. This session is about sharing insights that can help us to make practical steps towards a healthier future together. So, I would like to introduce you to the first speaker who will speak about the significance of educating young people to healthy habits, sustainability, and physical and mental well-being. Please welcome Dr. Marina Macchiaiolo. Doctor at the Rare Diseases and Medical Genetics Unit at Bambino Gesù Children's Hospital, and also the president of the Italian Committee for the United World Colleges. Dr. Marina will focus on a case study regarding the educational model applied at United World Colleges. Dr. Marina, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. And really, thank you for having me. I'm a pediatrician. I'm specializing in rare and genetic diseases. I'm truly passionate about my work, but I have to admit that sometimes can be a little bit challenging. Dealing with rare diseases is confronting a significant amount of suffering on a daily basis. You might argue that this is kind of the job description for a doctor, but it's not always true. If you look at the, better than me, the definition of World Health Organization health, it's not just dealing with disease or infirmity, it's also promotion of health. Well, actually, it doesn't resonate for me that much. There are specialties that do, not mine, actually. I live in a country where proudly, and let's say, at least should be, the national health system is public and universal, but you know better than me that this is really difficult the sustainability is really hard. So the challenges of the doctors are the very last on the list. So each one of us try to cope in his own way, to maintain a balance, to stay stable and to remain a good doctor as I wish to be. And so I would like to share with you my way. My second, perhaps maybe my first passion is is education, and especially a unique model of education is the United World Colleges model. I want to illustrate why I believe this model is really linked to health promotion. And but the disclaimer is that I'm not going to advertise for international school. I want to discuss a model that has been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for the second time in a row. UWC was founded in the 60s during the Cold War. Cold is a word that we miss so much right now by many different means. And it was inspired by a German pedagogist, Kurt Hahn, who visited a military school, another military school in France, and he found out that young boys were getting along so well, and they were from countries that they were at war just a few years before. And he realized, and he was aware already, that education is one of the most powerful weapons that we have to change the world. As later on, Nelson Mandela stated, one of our honorary presidents. And but he thought, which could be the best window to be more impactful? And he decided adolescence could be a best window. And why is that? I mean, if you are the parents of a teenager, you know very well their critical skill things, and but yes, they have a strong critical thinking, but yet their mindset is still can still shift from a fixed mindset to a growing mindset, especially when they are given the opportunity to learn from peers. And this is precisely the idea behind UWC, 18 colleges and schools and colleges around the world, where students come from various backgrounds and spend the last 2 years of high school together. And you might say, okay, this is an international school. No, it is not just an international school, because at UWC, students come from not only from different backgrounds, but also not just from different countries, but also from different socioeconomic, social, political, religious background. And they spend time together. And there, the model of education is a model that celebrates diversity. And it's not just to celebrate diversity, it's also, you know, the main aim is to understand for individuals how to explore the reason behind diversity and to use it as a source of enrichment for their personal growth and knowledge rather than a cause of division. And another key points of education, of this model of education, is community building, sense of belonging, which is one of the an evidence-based indicators for better physical and mental health. At my hospital in Rome, the largest hospital in Italy, pediatric hospital in Italy, and one of the largest in Europe. Last year we had 387 access at the emergency room for suicidal attempt, for self-harm or serious mental acute disorders, 150% more than the mean of the 10 years before, and started well before pandemic. It's just not pandemic. It's something that started well before. And I don't want to simplify or oversimplify these issues. That's very complicated, but the heavy sense of isolation experienced by these children is really significant, even in a country where we are well known for, you know, liking to be together. And community building is one of the core United World Colleges model, which is not merely a byproduct of a residential experience. And I would like to conclude with a powerful story. Azin, a 16 years old from an Hazara minority from Kabul, arrived at the UWC Mostar in Bosnia and Herzegovina in 2018. Initially, she experienced a culture shock, the outpouring of hugs, easily falling in love with other person. It was really strange for her. And however, day by day, she became competent. She became part of this vibrant community, feeling empowered and without having to change her beliefs or her attitude, which is the key. Unfortunately, she couldn't come back because of the visa issue, but she continued to feel empowered. She started to teach English to young girls in Kabul, and she started to become outspoken. So when the Taliban arrives in 2021 in August, she was the perfect target, minority and outspoken. So instead of contacting her former teachers, actually she reached out for her peers for help. A group of young classmates, 6 classmates, organized and fundraised immediately to buy flight tickets for the family. Yeah, they succeed in very few hours, but then the flight were canceled. So what they did, they became to seeking assistance from the adults that they were, you know, could contact. One of them was me. So like many others in the movement, I started writing letters, making phone calls, and lots of people were saying, yes, we understand, but, so we gave up. But they didn't. The 6 individuals stayed awake night and day, trying to find a way. Some of them, they were not even legal, I have to share. But then in the end, they succeed. They succeed and they were able to get Azin and her mother and little brother in the very last flight from Kabul. Then she moved to Spain. She stayed there for a while. Then she went to Canada, at Pearson College in Canada, when she achieved the IB diploma. But this is not the end of the story, because now she's a mentor for young girls in Afghanistan, where she can help and also coach them. This is, for me, an example of multiplicative effect of a well-being. Does always work? No, of course not. I can share many other stories, but they're not always the same. But when it works, it's really worthwhile. Is it scalable? I don't know. It's a question that's complicated, but and I understand it's naive to say that. But if you think at the cost of a word drawn, how many scholarships could we have? Okay. So I want to finish with this quote from Kurtan. He said, there are three ways of trying to capture the young. One is to preach them, but I'm afraid it is a hook without worm. The second one is to coerce them and to tell them you must volunteer. The third one is an appeal which never fails. You are needed. And actually, I would like, to stay optimistic, but I would like also that we all realize that if we want a better and healthier world, we need to realize that we need them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marina. Can you please join me here and have a seat? Now, it's time to move to our second speaker, Professor Stefano Capolongo. Professor Stefano will speak about architecture and the role it plays in creating spaces that support health and recovery. The case study will be on the Hospital of the Future. Professor Stefano is the scientific coordinator at the EPHC Design and Health Lab at the University of Milan. Professor Stefano, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, so good afternoon to everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you, Tiago, for introducing myself. So the object of my presentation is to discuss the key role of built environment and architecture in promoting better health and well-being. And so in particular, in my presentation, I will describe the design strategies for rethink the hospital of the future. Obviously, it's not possible to imagine exactly what will happen in the future. We are only able to define the several possible future directions. And it's important to choose the best way and decide which of the several future we want to define. And in fact, Herbert Simon, Nobel Prize for Economic Science, said, we are already part of the future. Therefore, our task is not to predict the future, but to design it. To design the future is important to know very well the past time, the history. Studying the historical evolution of the hospital, in fact, we understand that the architectural typology change on the big global trends and the social instance. The key role of architecture is to translate the different instances, for example, environmental, economic, political, epidemiological, transformation, and many other factors into physical space. Today, we know the optimal hospital life cycle is about 40 or 50 years, and the planning process from design to build is about 10 and 20 years. Moreover, we know that 70% of hospital buildings are obsolete and half of them cannot host new organization model. This general consideration guide us to conduct several studies based on literary review and observation of international hospital best practice. The World Health Organization recently published the technical brief Hospital of the Future, for which Politecnico di Milano is a collaborating center for the next 4 years. The brief aims to support the European region in planning the roadmap of the future salutogenic healthcare infrastructure and consists of about 10 strategies to define the future of the hospital in terms of sustainability, resilience, and flexibility. I will show some of the points present in the technical brief. So the first very fast point is in the technical brief is the localization. I think is the precondition for a new hospital, not only the physical accessibility, but also for the digital accessibility. The second is very important, the synergy between hospital and the territory, included the connecting with the primary care centers and the residential care strategy. Very, very important is the flexibility and resilience are today two fundamental requirements that make the building flexible to the fast change in medicine with emergency situation, such as pandemic, but also natural and geopolitical aspects, disaster, refugees, political situation. For example, in this picture, we see the Martini Hospital in Netherlands, in Groningen, a best price for flexibility because it can modify very fast the layout with the prefabricated elements, and after the end of its life cycle, it can also complete the construction. Functional design is fundamental in salutogenic hospital to translate a new organizational model and medical innovation into efficient layout and guarantee good health assistance. The hospital of the future will have a prevalence of single patient room with the possibility of becoming double room in emergency situation or guarantee the physical space for the caregiver. This solution is really, really important to reduce the cross-contamination and guarantee the privacy for the patients. And then sustainability is today the most urgent issues. I want to remind that the hospital works 24 hours per day and produce many, many strong environmental impact for the typology of activities. Open space, green area are also important of the health and the well-being of patient and the care staff. This approach is demonstrated by many scientific studies, such as the theory of Ulrich, that show the benefit of green view for the patient, reducing the permanency in the hospital of the patient. So also universal design, design for all, should be considered to meet the needs of all users by improving the soft quality aspect, both inside and outside of healthcare facility. And finally, digitalization can improve the management of facilities assets and clinical services, not only for biomedical device, but with the physical space, such as a sensory room or control room in the hospital. All these strategies can be monitored with a specific assessment tool to conduct post-occupancy evaluation. Usually in medicine, we use the evidence-based medicine. So in architecture and public health, the big challenge, I think, is to introduce the concept of the evidence-based design approach. I want to remember in architecture, it's not possible to use only the quantitative indicator, but it's necessary to introduce both quantitative and qualitative indicator. This challenge for the hospital of the future requires the strong synergy between the research approach, institution, and the industrial pattern. One good practice with this vision is represented by the joint research platform Healthcare Infrastructure in Politecnico di Milano. This model guarantees technological evolution and innovative solution in healthcare supply chain. This represents the concrete possibility to generate innovation for the hospital of the future. So I conclude my presentation with a short video for dreaming about the hospital of the future and the volume.
Hospitals to constantly catch up. State-of-the-art facilities are being rebuilt as soon as they open. The lifespan of hospitals is becoming shorter and shorter. The more recent their completion, the sooner they're out of date. Can we imagine a different way to build hospitals? Instead of building high, what if the hospital were a low-rise structure, conceived not as a building, but as a system, made up of modules, incorporating gardens where nature can be enjoyed by patients and staff? A limited number of elements accommodates an array of functions. A structure that can be scaled up or down, yet remain operational at all times. Adaptable to changing demands, organized around a network of flows. This is the hospital of the future. hospital of the future builds itself. It maximizes the potential of automation and 3D printing and uses its waste as a resource. The hospital of the future produces what it consumes. Its energy, its food, its medicine. The hospital of the future is everywhere. The hospital of the future is now.
Okay, thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Stefano. Now it's time to move forward to the third speaker, Dr. Stanislava Boskovic. And this presentation is about health-centric design in public spaces and how thoughtful urban planning can contribute to community well-being. The case study is on two projects run by Dr. Stanislava, HERT and EU Polis. Doctor, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for a generous introduction, and thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great pleasure and honor being here with you. So, public spaces and health have been always very linked each to other. And our task as urban designers and architects is really to underline those links and to find the best way how to support the harmony between it. And creating the truly inclusive spaces, such as the spaces important for health and well-being. There is no one recipe that would give a way to do it, but it's a continuous and a very, very dynamic process of effort, of knowledge collection, of dialogue and flexibility, because we know that even the best solution at one moment could need to be changed. It could need to be adapted for new conditions. And this is what we really believe, that we can learn a lot from the nature. This beautiful example and phenomena of trees crown shyness really teaches us how we can, in an interdisciplinary way, learning from other fields, listen what each of the experts that could be involved in a project can give us an input, but also have an overall holistic vision and inclusion of each of the elements. And this is what we are trying to do in two European funded projects, one called HEART and another EU Polis, that are interdisciplinary projects about nature-based solutions in public spaces for enhancement of public health and well-being. These two projects are composed by a consortia of many partners that are working over the 4 years approximately for trying to identify concerns and finding the solutions for improvement and enhancement of public health and well-being in cities. We use nature-based solutions as we think that nature and the phenomena that we can see in nature can teach us a lot, but we also use them, as very nicely was shown in the previous presentation, as it is very important for health and well-being having the nature around us. So many partners and many case studies that we are studying are interesting because of their diversity in scale, diversity in cultural background, but also the input that the different partners can give, like technology providers, university, as I'm representing today here, and designers, and of course municipalities and planning authorities in cities. So we have wide and rich geography of case studies, very different in scale and in background and in context. And to understand that context, we have to do a very deep analysis of different elements to really understand what are the requirements needed to face in the cities where we are working and in specific case studies, and then connect them to the impacts that we would like to do and connect those possible solutions that are carefully chosen for a specific context where we are dealing it to different technologies and different combinations of those nature-based solutions for getting to the benefits linked to the health. We also, and very importantly, have to test and simulate the situations, simulate them to link to a very different kind of indicators like those, very important for us, but also very important for public health and well-being, which are environmental indicators. And we can test the air quality, the different scenarios for trying to find the best solution for the case studies where we are dealing. And then, of course, for speaking with the important decision makers and communicating with planning authorities, we have to try to show the impact that we believe the interventions will have. And this is also done by help of monitoring systems, environmental monitoring, but also public health and well-being through different devices that you can see on the screen now. And of course, social, which are very important. And again, here we have the mix that was already mentioned today before of qualitative and quantitative indicators that lead us to the solutions and to the measuring of potential benefits. And I would like just very quickly to underline that we know that nature-based solutions and trees specifically have a lot of positive impacts, we know, and there are many indicators that can show that. But we also know that some of the species have a negative impact or allergic pollen emission. Biogenic volatile organic compounds can be positive and also have a negative effect. And this is why it is very important to study deposition, and this is something that urban designers can do in the public spaces to not create barriers, but actually to choose the best species that are adapted for the specific case. It's that we are studying in their climatic, geographical context. And this can be done again by different tools, scientific tools that can help us to recommend the specific tree species that we can use in public spaces for healing goals. And this is already to the end of this presentation to actually call us to invest always more in interdisciplinarity effort, because it is sometimes very easy to say being integrated and being interdisciplinary, but the capacity of listening all the experts and learning each from other is not always there. But the themes that we are tackling today here and generally globally, like climate change and importance of preserving and taking care about the health of citizens and also health of our planet, those are the themes that resonate with us all. And this is why a common integrated approach and knowledge is needed to tackle them and constantly improve them. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Boskovic. Now it's around 2:30, and quoting a widely known author, we are halfway there, end of quotation, Bon Jovi. So now I would like to introduce you to our fourth and last speaker, Mr. George Valiotis, who is currently the Executive Director of Health Technology Assessment International. And the case study is on the role of organizational leaders in creating supportive environment for well-being. And the presentation is all about compassionate leadership in organizations. Thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Tiago, and thank you for having me today. I want to start by saying that a lot of you know some of the jobs that I've been in, but I'm going to draw on a lot of the consulting that I've done. And so these are organizations you wouldn't have heard of, and that's important because I'm going to provide you with 4 different case studies today. And these case studies in of themselves didn't quite happen, but I've sewn together a whole bunch of stories from one organization here and there, and then I've put it through a filter. I spoke to my colleagues at HTAI International, and I'm not really speaking from the work I do at that organization, but they helpfully gave me some tips on what's important about well-being. And this morning I met with the board that I've been consulting with, and they gave me some other tips where we try and learn from where we really messed up as leaders, and we also try and learn from where we really succeeded and everything in between. So if I tell you a case study today and you think, oh, I know that case study, you don't. And if you think you do, you probably need my help. So let's talk afterwards. Now, I first want to start, where's my button for the next slide? Oh, here it is. I want to talk to you about loneliness to get started. Then I'm going to give you these 4 case studies. And at the end, we'll look at what we can learn from all of those things. So let's set the scene. We know this. COVID really changed the world. Its impact has been evident. A study by Eurofound revealed that remote workers, especially women and children, experience heightened work-life balance challenges during the pandemic. And additionally, the European Agency for Safety and Health at Work reported that 44% of workers felt that their mental health and well-being had declined due to increased workloads and poorer job insecurity. Additionally, the EU Loneliness Survey in 2022 found that loneliness impacted individuals more likely to exhibit reduced trust and withdrawal from political participation. So although that's about political participation, it also tells us about how people will engage in the workplace. Now, finally, the 2024 State of the Global Workplace report by Gallup finds that 1 in 5 employees worldwide currently feels lonely at work. Now, the question is, whose responsibility is that? Does that fall on the individual or does that fall on the workplace? And really what all the evidence will tell you is that increasingly it falls on the workplace. This very helpful tool's been created for you to measure loneliness. I'm sorry if it's triggering for some people, and it probably will be. You can find this tool online, and you can even complete it on there's an AI that helps you do it online. Now, some of the things that have come out about loneliness in the workplace is that it cannot be solved by any one person at work. Teamwork doesn't necessarily fix loneliness either, because we're all very dynamic individuals. Loneliness is not an individual's problem, though. It has to be seen as a responsibility of the employer. And so the ways that we can overcome that is that by designing spaces into the workflow that give people space to connect in the different ways they do, and creating a culture of connection. Now, some of the ways that you can do that, there's a lot to say on it. However, there's 3 things that really work very well, no matter the personality type. They won't work for everyone every time, but collectively they make a big contribution. Those things are giving space for small talk and chit chat in meetings at work. Now at HTAI International, we work entirely remotely. So adding in time to all of our meetings where people can just speak openly is one very important thing that we do. Bringing people together for meals is another really important thing, ideally if you pay. And it's true. So chit chat and meals, and also going out and doing something social. It could be bowling. Often it's talked about around alcohol and going out for work drinks, but there's also non-alcohol focused ways that you can do that. Okay, so that is loneliness. Let's move on to my 4 case studies. I'm going to start with Blue. So Blue is a board member, was instrumental in bringing in a new senior manager to help an organization regain solvency and improve productivity. Over several years, this manager delivered substantial improvements, but over time, within the organization, people grew dissatisfied, citing that the manager hadn't completed certain additional tasks that they were asked to do. Now, instead of working collaboratively with their manager to address any concerns, Blue chose to launch an extensive investigation, closely scrutinizing the manager's outputs and conduct. Given the manager's strong track record, this response seemed drastic, and despite a full investigation, no real issues were found, but Blue still chose to terminate that manager's contract. Now, upon further reflection, I learned that Blue had never ever met with the manager directly, who in fact had been providing monthly reports. So this manager was reporting monthly about their increased workload. They'd been hospitalized for stress. They'd provided sickness certificates for stress-related illness in hospital. And I was shocked when I was brought in to review this that none of that had been responded to at all. They only saw the additional outputs. And when I was writing this anecdote, and I tested this with a few other board members, it was shocking how common this one is. I thought it would just be one of those eccentric ones. It's not. And again, in the audience, you might be thinking, this probably relates to me, and if it doesn't, it might be happening around you. So in the end, the response from Blue was clear. They had stated that the manager exceeded expectations in most areas, didn't complete additional tasks that we requested. This was frustrating. These are the words of Blue. So we terminated their contract. The fallout, of course, was significant, and it created a distrust across the organization that took them years to move on from. Now, when I was asked for this speech, I was told to be inspiring. Am I inspiring you? Maybe not yet, but we'll get to what we can learn from those. I'm sorry I had to turn the Rothkos sideways, but and so that's dishonorable, but let's move on to Red. I love this story. Red spent 7 years working for an organization, but had reason to take extensive leave. Their passion remained, but the work they desired to do didn't really align anymore with the job that they were hired to do. So they went to their manager and said, I want to leave, but if I leave, I won't get unemployment, so can you fire me? And that manager had actually been there before. This wasn't me, but that manager had been in that situation before, had fired someone who'd asked, and then got sued for unfair dismissal. So what can you do in this situation where no one means malice? Well, not in Red's situation, but also no one's happy with the current state of affairs. Now, here's what helped. In the country in which this story took place, they have a sophisticated small and medium enterprise policy that allowed for people to resign from their jobs and try to run their own business. They had to try for 6 months. If that didn't work, then after 6 months, they could apply for unemployment benefits that matched the job that they just left. And that option remained open to them for 7 years. So that gave a huge safety net to that person. And that's what Red did. Red then opened their own business and are thriving. They're in multiple years now of having done that. If that option was not available to Red, you can imagine what would have been different. 1 minute. Oh, okay, I got 2 case studies left. You can imagine what would have happened. I'll leave you to imagine. I'm going to tell you about Green. So Green, one day I went to the office with one of my children. This is a true story, and this was me. We don't speak English at home, and so my children, this child had a very heavy accent. And so Green is someone I worked with in an office of about 300 people. She was very modest and a kind person with a friendly face that people often thought they knew her from somewhere, but they didn't. Now, my child's running around like a crazy person and then stops in front of Green and says to her, "Hey, are you a boy or a girl?" And Green said, "I'm a girl." And my little one says, oh, okay. And off he ran. I was so embarrassed by that. And Green said to me, "Look, people don't normally see that I'm trans. Children do, adults don't. But when adults see it, they only see it." And then Green talked to me about all of the discrimination that they had faced in their job. And it was extensive. Oh, I should move on to Green. Yeah, that's Green. And it was extensive. But what was interesting is when I speak to people about Green and about bigotry in the workplace, they don't see it. And they would say, "Oh, no, they misunderstood." So listening to people is quite important, especially in diversity. Finally, Yellow. Do I have time for Yellow? Not really. Yeah, you're going to give me the time. Thank you so much. So Yellow had aspirations of a big job. And I'm going to skip Yellow, and I'm going to take you straight to what we can learn. So from Blue, we want to co-create clear work plans with staff. We want regular listening to their feedback, support time paid to do training and development, adjust your expectations, and align them with achievable goals. And as board members, we have to actively guard against complicit decision-making. If you're on a board who's acting improper, speak up, do something different. It takes courage, but you need to do it. From Red, about the one who started their own business, So those policies really help. Employers should make sure that they have a robust understanding of the law, because if they didn't, they might have missed that opportunity. And governments can do better to communicate legal options. And finally, we need managers to build cultures of open communication that made that discussion possible with RED. If we look to green, governance is the start and end point of all of the organization's culture. Governance is the responsibility of the board, but they could also create models that let everyone contribute. And Yellow, who you never heard from, was just a case of saying that we never really know the real challenges that people are facing. And so we need these cultures of being able to talk to people openly. We should have zero tolerance to bigotry. That's really important. But we also don't want to cancel people. So upskilling people to engage respectfully should also be on our agenda as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Obviously, we apologize you. So now we have time at least for one round of questions for our presenters. Let's try to make it short if possible. So my first question is to Dr. Marina. And what can you tell us more about the most effective methods for engage young people with healthy habits, especially considering all the digital distractions they have and they face right now?
Yeah, thank you for the question, because this is one of the key in the situation that we are facing now. But I think this is very connected with what I've said before. I think it's very connected with loneliness. I mean, this, you know, staying on the social media and whatever is very linked to the way to the fact that they do not have any space to stay together as we used to have. I mean, it sounds a little bit, you know, the past times, but it's not actually. I mean, if you look at the city, there are no places where they can gather together. I mean, if there are places where, you know, it's not possible to play on the ground. And teaching healthy habits is also linked from my point of view, because this is what I have experienced in this, you know, residential way of schools, that when they are together and they, you know, are exposed to learning experience, they do not need to stay all the time on this social media and so on. I think they are really very much connected. So I think, as you said before, I mean, loneliness is a key factor that in the modern society is not just the big cities. It's something that is true also in the small villages. So I would say so.
Yeah, thank you so much. Now, Professor Stefano, in your opinion, what most challenges the right balance between aesthetic design with functionality to create spaces that can be both beautiful and supportive of patient health?
So thank you for your question. It's very interesting and important to introduce this concept of beautiful, because in architecture, I think, I started your presentation with the definition of the state of the health for the World Health Organization, and including not only the physical, but as a mental and social aspect. It's very, very important, this approach, because nowadays we understand that the approach of the health is to transport to not only the medical approach, but is a social approach. And the beautiful space, I think, is a big contributor for the well-being of the population. And when I'm describing my presentation, it's necessary to introduce the new approach, the new trend, the new indicators, and qualitative indicators included the beautiful space. And we have a special survey during the COVID, and the technical staff stay in the garden during the break time, and the state of the anxiety and the stress to reduce too much. And usually the medical staff stay underground, the space without natural light, without the soft quality, really, really important. And so I think it is important to have the new way, the new vision for their living space in general, because the people spend, I want to remember, 90% of your life in the building, inside the building, the office, in the house, and the other time you stay in the city, and it's in the environmental construction. And it's really important, the key rule, to work together, the public health, the geography, the medical doctor, the architect, designer, engineer. The strategy is the contamination of different background, I think. I have a question for you. Why you describe the color, and the color is different? Green is red, red is yellow.
You're colorblind. Sorry. Sorry.
No, okay.
Okay, thank you so much. But actually, this triggers another question now for Dr. Stanislava, because also thinking in terms of urban planning, and how is it possible to balance constraints such as lack of resources, lack of space, or even budgetary constraints with community health? Is this achievable at all, or just a wishful thinking?
Well, I hope it is. I hope it is. Thank you very much for this question. It's fascinating. It's this finding this balance. It's all about our work, actually. And just to connect with what was said before, also beauty and the concept of beautiful is linked to harmony. Since ever we've been learning and designing our cities and our buildings. Therefore, this harmony that is so directly linked to well-being, and you were mentioning strongly about some examples of mental health among young people. So the lack of harmony guides to problematics. And therefore, beauty is not just a separate indicator that has nothing to do with functionality, with safety, with many other aspects. It is all part of one vision for creating our spaces better. Now, to find that balance that I believe has been always on the table as a task for architects and urban planners, but also for all other respectful colleagues that are dealing with creating the space. Today, we have an additional element that can help us a lot, and it's technology. It is something that I personally believe we can observe as a friend, not as an actor that does alone standing the things, but as a tool to test, to simulate the spaces, the materials, the distances, and actually to simulate and to test how people interact with the environment, with the build design environment. And there are already laboratories, like full-scale laboratories where we can test many of those things. It was impossible 10 years ago or more, but today we can really take an advantage in a dialogue with technology, in a dialogue of testing, and also exchanging that knowledge, which is developing at very, very fast pace. So it is important to be informed, to be updated. I'm saying it especially for young generation that will be working on all these issues. It is incredibly important to be up to date. And just to conclude, and it was very nicely, as I already mentioned, said in your intervention, this constant combination between quantitative and qualitative elements, but also subjective and objective factors. This is all about creation and design, but what could be very beneficial for health and well-being of one person might be different for other. What can be beneficial in beautiful city of Lisbon might not be beneficial in other cities. So we have carefully to analyze the situations where we work and to use our knowledge, our possibility to exchange it, and technology to make the better decisions.
Thank you so much. Now, Mr. George, we all know that we live in a fast-paced and high-stress context and environments. So what could you tell us about some practical ways leaders, organizational leaders, could take to combine the respect for compassion while keeping productivity?
So I think that people just need to calm down. We're just doing too much. And I know that there's this desire for increased productivity, but it needs to be reduced. That's the first thing. The second thing is all of the things that I presented about, you need to be in dialogue with your people. They need to feel safe to talk to you about what's happening. They need clear job descriptions. They need clear appraisals and feedback. And they need that in an environment where they're safe to speak up and safe to make mistakes. If they're able to do that, then they'll be as productive as possible. If that's not enough for you, you need to change your expectations of what kind of productivity you're looking for. The only other thing I'd like to add is, I was just mentioned that maybe my colors didn't align. I am super colorblind, so apologies. The colors just were because the anecdotes were meant to transcend age and gender because they apply so broadly. So that's me.
Okay, thank you so much. Very straightforward. So actually, we don't have time for a second round, but I would like you to think about your take-home messages for our audience. In 30 seconds, what can you give us in terms of an inspiration to take home based on your presentations and your insights?
I would like to say that we have to believe that the young deserve a better world, and we have to let them know that we need them.
Thank you.
So my message is health and well-being in all policies is really, really important. Nowadays, we have to discover the well-being and the health is really important. And it's necessary to introduce the new approach, the new research, and work together. This is my message.
Yes, well, it's my turn. Well, definitely, I agree with what was said before in all presentations, but also now in this final. So it's difficult to add something, but thinking about young people that we need, I would invite to observe, to continue being a very good observers, not just look, but observe, because many specific solutions that we need to improve our spaces and improve health and well-being both of planet and citizens, the solutions are there. So by keeping observing, combining it with continuous knowledge and exchange of such is something that I would ask you to do.
I'll build on that and I'll say it helps you to observe when you're building better connections with people. So the key things that are universally working is chit chat, small talk, share meals, and go out and do something social together. Do that with any of the people that you work with or that you want to work with to create better dialogues and reduce loneliness.
Thank you so much. So if you allow me, my take-home message is we need to try to find the right balance. So as we conclude, it's clear that promoting health goes beyond individual choices. It's about shaping environments, behaviors, and attitudes across disciplines. Today, we have seen compelling examples of how education, architecture, urban planning, and leadership can converge to promote healthier communities. These case studies underscore that health management benefits when diverse fields unite towards a common goal. By applying social marketing principles, we can enhance collaboration across sectors. We can make healthy choice more accessible, inclusive, and engaging. As we look ahead, let us continue to foster this interdisciplinary spirit where health becomes a shared responsibility, one that is embraced, supported, and championed by all society. Together, we can drive meaningful change for a healthy future. This is what European Health Management Association is all about. Please see some of these initiatives and others, as well as our health management community in our website. Thank you so much, and continue to enjoy the conference in Lisbon.